I think one of the interesting things about ARK in general as well is that you guys have actually, not you personally, but like your team over at ARK, is they actually tried to make an educational experience, a VR educational experience, which is something you don't see in a lot of games. Educational experiences, you know what I mean? Like teaching you about dinosaurs and Cretaceous periods. Like what is that about?
I'm laughing because I know some of our stuff is blatantly like in the face of science, like, yes, this is totally not plausible. Like some of our creatures rolling up like Sonic the Hedgehog and spinning around on their attacks and stuff like that. And it's now it's like the top result when you search for that dinosaur in Google. But yeah, I mean, I think for all of us, dinosaurs are a thing that we've really loved since we were kids. I mean, as you can imagine, our creature artists and stuff like that are super passionate about dinosaurs in particular, and are really always thinking about, how they're portraying things in the video game versus how they really were in science as we understand it. And we haven't tried to like adhere to a scientific understanding. That's always in flux anyway. But we've tried to strike a balance between science and fun, sort of like for the functional and service of a video game, whether it's a creature that sort of really existed, but we've tweaked its name so it's not exactly the creature, or it's a totally made up creature that's maybe kind of a dinosaur or not a dinosaur at all, to just kind of throw some fun into the mix. But it has been funny because we've even found a few cases where our in-game dossiers have shown up in like museums and stuff overseas in the gift shop as like something you buy for that dinosaur. And like at first we're like, okay, well that kind of sucks because they're like selling our thing. But at the same time, we're like, that thing says that how they can be tamed and how humans might use them for various things. Did anyone not read this and question that this maybe shouldn't be in a museum gift shop on top of that?
Someone cite the source on this. What's the source?
Yeah, I think that was just like a moment for me where I'm like, wow, ARK has gone like beyond video games. It's like representing his dinosaur representation in the real world, for better or worse.
So can you guys talk about what you're adding to the 5-year anniversary? You're having some major things coming up for the game that have been recently added as well.
Yeah, I think we got 2 updates actually, kind of back to back. We had the original 5-year sort of mini update that had a bunch of fun stuff in it, and then we got the bigger update that's coming out, Summer Bash, in a couple weeks. Cedric, you want to talk about any of that stuff?
Yeah, I just found the reference that you were talking about, Jesse, where that our ARK thing was in that museum or whatever. I'll send it over to Tracy and she can send it over to you. But yeah, so we actually had kind of 2 events back to back, which isn't very normal for ARK. Usually our events are about 2 weeks or so, and then they, there's usually a good amount of time before another one pops up. But we had the 5-year anniversary event, which is going on right now. And that is mainly, we boosted some raids. We gave them a big kind of dino cake to jump out of. It's just a lot of celebratory fun for people. What I've learned from the community and talking with them is that events are really important to our, not only to our new players that are coming on since, the ETS launch and things like that, but they're more important to our players that have been on for 5 years or so. You can imagine, I run into people that commonly have 5,000 hours in ARK, 10,000 hours in ARK, 12,000 hours in ARK. After you have so much time in a game, arguably you're looking for new experiences. If you have 12,000 hours in ARK, you've probably seen it all. You've probably done everything that the game has to offer. So these events give you a new experience to latch on to. For the anniversary event, we gave them kind of a lot of party things, some skins, a cake to jump out of. But what we have coming up next week is the Summer Bash, and this is a really popular event for people because it's just a celebration of summer and a celebration of fun. So we'll have some weapon skins. We'll have some boosted rates. We started introducing what we call chibis, which are basically a kind of a collecting game where they're miniature versions of the dinosaurs and creatures that we have in game. They don't offer any benefit to the player in terms of fighting or any protection, But honestly, it's turned into a fun game to see the community try to get all these chibis and collect them, and you can kind of have them follow you around. So it's been kind of a fun game with that. And more so what the community looks forward to is, generally every event, we have a percentage of the wild creatures spawn in random colors for that particular event. So for like Valentine's Day, they'll be hues of red and pink, different things like that. But I didn't realize how important this is to our community. Our anniversary event going on right now, they let us know that, whenever we do events, we should try to bring in colors if we can. So for Summer Bash, we're definitely bringing back colors. We'll have some scans, we'll have, boosted rates, but more importantly, these events bring back the older community of ARK. Not everyone, spends 8 hours a day, 5 hours a day in ARK. A lot of people come back just for these events. They'll come back, they'll meet up with their old tribe, they'll have a little party, do some of the new event content, and then they're off after the event is done, and they'll be back when the next event pops up or when the next map pops up, to Jesse's point earlier. So these events are really important to our community, and it's really fun when we can go all out on them.
Do you feel like, that's just games as a service, right? Do you ever get people coming to you from the community say like, hey, there's nothing to do in your game anymore, and you look at their log and they have 5,000 hours, you're like what do you want me to do? You have 5,000 hours, man. We're trying
all the time, and honestly, it lets me know, for the people that have 12,000, 15,000, ARK really isn't about the game as much as it is about the experiences you have in the game. Most of what I go through on ARK is people sharing their experiences. It's not really, you have all these moments in ARK. I can't even recall moments from when I was playing 4 years ago. So if I can recall these moments, I think that's what really melds this community together, is these experiences that they're having in a game. And that experience brings them back to ARK, not necessarily ARK bringing them back.
So Jesse, obviously games as a service, especially online games, cross-play has come up a lot in the last few years. Do you plan on doing more cross-play with your ARK game? And if that's off the table, talk about cross-progression. If I could log into my, say PS4 and then log into my PC and have all my gear there, is that open on the table as well?
Yeah, so we've talked about it between consoles for sure. It's mostly just a technical thing. We're still kind of debating whether or not to do it. It might be one of those things where just for this version of ARK, we may not do cross progression. Crossplay is a little bit easier if we decide to do that because, as other devs have noted, there's not a lot of technical hurdles to enabling that. It's mostly some procedural stuff to make sure that all parties are okay with players connecting to the same server. We kind of decided, since ARK itself is a little bit of a shooter in the sense that there's insta-hit weapons like, sniper rifles and rapid fire weapons and stuff like that. It's a real tough game to try to justify crossplay on a large scale on our official servers between PC and console. It's just one of those things where, in addition to having somewhat of an advantage with mouse and keyboard, there's always opportunity for hacks and stuff like that. That's a cat and mouse game that we're constantly engaged in. And we don't want to ruin the experience for console players because some bad actors on PC are installing software that's, gonna kind of ruin their experience. And ARK was in a game that we designed from the ground up to kind of have a lot of safeguards against that sort of thing in crossplay. It's like the console systems are very secure with like what you can do as a player versus PC just kind of always being that cat and mouse game like I mentioned. Going forward, if we were developing a new product, we would certainly target that as a core design fundamental. Like, we probably wouldn't allow so many things that could potentially be exploitable in a game. And this is something that like a lot of games deal with, and why oftentimes you'll see people kind of debating back and forth whether or not they want to even open up crossplay between PC and console. It's not just the mouse and keyboard advantage, especially these days, since mouse and keyboard support is a thing. We even have mouse and keyboard support in ARK on Xbox, I think now, right, Cedric?
Yeah.
I don't know if we rolled that out.
Yep, we have.
Yeah. So, yeah, but that said, it's not totally not possible. I mean, between our Windows 10 version and the Xbox version, those are very similar, obviously. So if you want to play ARK with your friends on Xbox, for example, you can also play on PC on the Windows 10 client, and that's buy one, play anywhere. So in general, we really love crossplay. We just don't want to do something with ARK that kind of potentially ruins the experience for a lot of people if we try to enable that. That said, as I mentioned earlier, we're all about options. So, I could see us in the future potentially, if we want to do something like that, making it possible for you to have crossplay on your own servers that you host out in the cloud, and allow you to play between consoles potentially and stuff like that. We can never do that direct peer-to-peer. The system's just not set up that way to allow you to, fire up a hosted server on your Xbox and play with your PlayStation friends. But through the cloud hosting architecture, through our service providers, those are very similar to our official servers. So we would be able to enable some experiences like that potentially down the road. So that would be more the kind of thing we might look at in the future over the next year or two, not necessarily cross progression per se, but the cross play on consoles is something that's a little bit more of a achievable low-hanging fruit at this point in the game's life.
Fun question is, you guys, we'll start with Cedric. What's your favorite dinosaur and why?
It's probably going to be the raptor. I hate to be kind of like stereotypical because the raptor is such an iconic dino. I have a backup if we need one, but the raptor is kind of for more sentimental reasons. That's the first dino that I actually got to work on programmatically at the studio. So, I did the pounce feature that everyone hates. So it's kind of like close to my heart because of that. So that's always going to be my favorite dino.
I think for me, it's always the Rex. It's one of the first ones we created for the game, and it's always been one of my favorite dinosaurs. I think that it's just having the real version in packs and everything has really cemented that for me. As far as ARK goes, though, just in terms of look, it's probably a controversial choice, but I also really like the Uteranus. I just think it's cool because it's kind of like a Rex, but it's covered fully with feathers, almost like a chicken. But I still think it looks kind of cool, and I always like seeing those dinosaurs in the game, just out in the wild and stuff like that. But it's just hard. ARK has so many creatures, and having worked on literally every one of them with the team, it is really hard to have favorites because there's just so many, even creatures we've made up, like the rock drake for aberration, for example, they're just so cool, and the team has such great imagination, and the mechanics can be so fun. And that's why it's fun to go back and do TLC on some of the really early creatures and give them a little bit of extra love, which we do plan to do a little bit more of in ARK's lifetime. But I think I'll always fall back on the Rex as my favorite.
And then Jesse, when you were making this game years and years and years ago, did you ever think it would get to this point? I mean, what was your point when you're like, holy crap, we've made it? Like, was it when you saw the T-Rex statue? Was it when millions of people were starting to play your game? Like, what was that moment for you when you're like, holy crap, people are really enjoying my game that, we've been working on for these years?
Honestly, it was like launch day on early access. We were just so blown away by the number of people that were buying your game and playing it within that first day. And it just didn't stop. And we were like, holy crap, like what is happening right now? And I think over the years that was solidified, of course, as everything grew and got crazier and crazier. But after 9 months of developing in secrecy and worried if people would like our game enough to dig into their wallets and support our further development, launch day was both very stressful, but a huge relief that, okay, at least we know we're onto something here. We got a tough road ahead of us that may take years and years to get to where we're happy with it, but looks like we've got a passionate community that wants this type of game and is gonna go along this ride with us. So it was from the earliest moments where everyone started playing that I started to feel that way.
I guess a lot of weight lifted off your shoulders because you spent all your heart and soul making this, and you want people to like it. I don't think any developer sets out intentionally to make a bad game. I think they just want to make something that they think other people will enjoy.
It's a good point. I wish more people in the community realize that no developer intentionally sets out to make a bad game. I think a lot of times the community thinks the intent is bad with a lot of things that it's done in the gaming community, and whether, you know, the actions are right or wrong, or whether it was the right decision or wrong decision, I think more often than not, the intent is there. The intent is to make something fun. The intent is to make something people love. And sometimes you mess up along the way, but you keep on cracking at it till you get there.
And Cedric, I love your story about, you know, you being a mod, which is what put you on ARK's radar, because that was a big thing in the 90s with a lot of Quake modders. A lot of those people went on to work for very prestigious studios because they were taking Quake and modding it, modding the maps, modding the modes, modding textures, because there is a level of design and development that goes into that. It's not just like, you know, dragging things in. You're actually doing coding on a certain sense.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I never... you know, although I always wanted to be in the gaming industry, that's why I went to school. I got a computer science degree. I thought I would get out and I would be making games in Ohio. And turns out I wasn't making games in Ohio. So then when the ARK dev kit came out, it really gave me an opportunity to kind of investigate, see if it's something I really still wanted to do. Because, you know, at that time I was, you know, I was in management. I was in a different area in computer world. So I kind of wanted to see if that I still had that passion in me. So, you know, it gave me a lot of I remember, I mean, at that time I was working a 12-hour job. I was coming home working on the mod 12-hour. I mean, it was just like I was sleeping none because I just had this drive and this passion to complete this mod. And it ended up being the thing that really got me noticed by the community and by a studio. So this is pretty much, I would say, my application to Studio Wildcard.
Awesome. So Jesse, where can people go to find more information about ARK if they're new players, and how long does the 5-year celebration last? When does it end so they can get in on the activities before it goes away? Cedric, you too. You can bring
I think ground zero for all of our stuff is definitely survivetheark.com. We've got a lot of community features there, and that's kind of where everything comes out from. And the event itself is still ongoing. With the 5-year anniversary and the Summer Bash kind of blend into each other a little bit. Do we actually have a pause between the race and stuff, Cedric?
Yeah, we'll actually be putting out an article today on the Summer Bash and the raids, but that'll start up on the 25th, if I'm not mistaken. Again, my dates mixed up. So the anniversary event will run up until the Summer Bash. So pretty much the 25th is, I believe, the last day that the anniversary day. That'll be when Summer Bash is starting. So the 24th is the last day for the anniversary.
So get in on that now, guys, before it ends. Get in on it. Celebrate 5 years
exactly.
of hard work.
I hope people picked up the game on EGS, and you know, all of the official maps are on there as well, the free ones and the DLC. And as soon as Epic supports modding on EGS, we're going to be right in there, making sure that EGS players can play on those modded servers as much as possible. ARK's kind of always been a game that's rooted in Steam as a platform, with Workshop and everything, and mods being such a key part of the game's long-term success. Didn't mention that earlier, but I think that's another key factor, the support of our modding community, which Cedric and others have actually been hired from. But it's really important for us that as soon as that's available on Epic Game Store, that we find a way to make sure that players can both get and upload new mods to EGS and kind of have a more rich cross-play experience that supports mods, not just official content.
It's always good to have. There's never a bad thing to have your game on more than 4 platforms ever. You know, the more places your game can be accessible, the better. Whether that's mobile, PC, different stores on PC, Xbox console, whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as people have a chance to experience it, that's the important thing.
Especially in a game like ARK, where it's really about trying to get your friends and, you know, get out there and survive. So the more places that people can access the game, the more chances you have to create a tribe and have some epic times with your friends.